You know what stops most people from changing their lives? It's not lack of talent. It's not lack of opportunity. It's not even fear of failure. It's a belief that they have to be great before they even start. We've been taught to earn the right to begin, to wait until we're confident, ready, experienced, qualified. But that's not how greatness is born. Every person you admire, every dream you've ever had, started with someone who was scared to death, but brave enough to take the first step anyway. And I want you to really feel this. You don't have to be great yet. You just have to be brave enough to begin. Because there's a moment right before every breakthrough where your heart beats faster, your mind screams, what if I fail? And your comfort zone tries to chain you down. That's the moment most people quit. But that's also the exact moment destiny tests you. And those who dare to take that step, even trembling, they're the ones who discover who they really are. So before you tune out, before your mind says, I've heard this before, I want to challenge you, stay with me. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you something that could change how you see yourself forever. This isn't about motivation. This is about awakening. This is about building the courage to begin, even when everything in you says you're not ready. Because if you can learn to begin bravely, you can learn to become greatly. You know, most people spend their whole lives waiting for that one perfect moment, that feeling of being ready. They tell themselves, once I have more time, more money, more experience, then I'll start. They build an entire story around that word, ready. But let me tell you something that might shake you a little. Ready is an illusion. It's fear disguised as preparation. It's your mind's clever way of keeping you safe and stuck. I've met thousands of people who are overflowing with potential, passion, and ideas, but they're trapped in hesitation. They say, I'm just not ready yet. But what they really mean is, I'm afraid to fail, to look stupid, to make a mistake. And I get it. We've all been there. I've been there. The truth is nobody feels ready when they start. Nobody wakes up one day and says, today I'm finally fearless. It doesn't work that way. Life doesn't give you clarity first and courage later. It gives you confusion, chaos, and a choice. You either wait for everything to make sense or you decide to move anyway. And that moment, that decision to begin before the perfect plan appears, that's where transformation starts. See, the mind loves comfort. It's built to protect you. It whispers, wait until you're sure. But growth doesn't live in comfort. It lives in the unknown. The most powerful shift you'll ever make in your life is to stop waiting to be ready and start moving while you're uncertain. Because the truth is, clarity doesn't come before action. Clarity is the reward for taking action. Think about it. Every great thing you've ever done in your life, you didn't have it all figured out first. The first time you tried something new, your first job, your first business, your first love, you didn't have a roadmap. You learned as you went. You stumbled, you adjusted. And that's what made you stronger. You weren't ready, but you began anyway. So why now, when it really matters, your dreams, your growth, your calling, are you waiting to feel something you've never needed? The idea that you have to be ready before you start is one of the biggest lies that holds people hostage. It kills dreams before they even take their first breath. When I talk to people who've done something extraordinary and I ask them, were you ready when you started? They laugh. Every single one of them says no. They just knew they couldn't stay where they were any longer. That discomfort became their motivation. And that's what I want you to understand. It's not about feeling ready. It's about feeling done with excuses, done with hesitation, done with playing small. There's a story we all carry, a version of ourselves we believe we need to become before we can begin. But that story is fiction. You don't need to be the final version of you to start. You just need to show up as the version that's willing to take the first step. That's all. Because here's what happens when you finally take that first imperfect step. The universe starts responding. Doors open. People show up. Energy flows. You start building momentum. And that momentum builds belief. Suddenly, you look back and realize the fear that felt so big was just a shadow. But the magic only happens when you begin. The longer you wait for everything to line up, the more life slips through your fingers. Every someday you whisper is another today you lose. And one day, if you're not careful, someday becomes never. I want you to imagine this 10 years from now, looking back on today. Will you wish you had started sooner? Will you regret the time you spent waiting to feel ready? Because that's the truth for so many people, not that they tried and failed, but that they never tried at all. And that's a kind of pain that never leaves you. You don't need to have the map. You just need to take the first turn. The road will reveal itself as you move. That's how life works. Every step you take brings you closer to who you're meant to be. You learn, you evolve, you grow, and suddenly the version of you that once felt unprepared becomes the version that inspires others to begin. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'll start when I'm ready, I want you to flip that thought. Tell yourself, I'll get ready by starting, because that's the truth. Action creates readiness. Every great builder lays the first brick before the building exists. Every great musician hits the first note before the song is complete. Every great dreamer takes the first step before the vision is clear. Don't let the fear of imperfection stop you from progress. Don't let your need for certainty keep you from your destiny. Life rewards movement. The longer you wait to begin, the louder the excuses become and the smaller your belief gets. But the second you truly decide that you're going to start, no matter how unready you feel, everything changes. And maybe that's the point. Maybe greatness isn't about being ready. Maybe it's about being real enough to admit your fear, but bold enough to walk through it. Because the truth is, you'll never feel ready to start. But if you start, you'll eventually feel unstoppable. People talk a lot about confidence. They think it's the magic key that unlocks success. That once you finally feel confident, then you'll take action, chase your dream, start the business, make the change. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. Confidence is not the starting point, it's the result. You don't build confidence by waiting for it. You build it by doing the very thing that scares you. Everyone wants to feel ready before they leap. But confidence doesn't show up before the leap. It shows up after. It's like a muscle. You don't get stronger by staring at the weights. You get stronger by picking them up, by struggling under their weight, by failing and then doing it again. Courage, not confidence, is what gets you through those first shaky reps of life. See, when people look at someone successful, an athlete, a leader, a creator, they often say they're so confident. That's why they succeed. But that's not how it started. They were scared, uncertain, unsure. The only difference is they moved anyway. They acted before they felt like it. That's courage, and courage is where confidence is born. I remember talking to someone once who told me, I want to start my dream project, but I just need to feel more confident. And I said, you've got it backward. You'll never feel confident until you start. Confidence is evidence. It's proof. You can't prove something you haven't done. You can read every book, take every class, talk to every mentor, but until you act, nothing changes. Courage is that voice inside that whispers, I'm terrified, but I'm doing it anyway. It's not loud or flashy. It's quiet, steady, determined. It's the decision to show up even when your hands shake. And the truth is, the people who change their lives, the ones who break through, aren't the ones who were fearless. They were the ones who felt fear and moved through it. You might be thinking, but what if I fail? And yes, you might. Failure is possible, but so is greatness. So is growth. So is becoming the version of yourself that you've only imagined. And the only way to find out which one you'll experience is to try. Fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means go. It means you're alive. It means you're standing at the edge of something that matters. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. Think back to a time in your life when you were scared, but you did it anyway. Maybe it was speaking in front of a crowd, starting a new job, ending something that no longer served you. Remember that feeling afterward? That rush of power, that sense of pride. I actually did it. That's confidence. You didn't have it before. You earned it through courage. Every single time you act in the face of fear, you build a new layer of belief in yourself. You start to realize, I can handle this. I can figure it out. That's real confidence, not arrogance, not pretending, but a deep knowing that whatever comes, you'll find a way. And that kind of confidence doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. The problem is most people wait for the feeling of confidence to give them permission to act. But courage doesn't wait for permission. Courage moves. It decides. It takes the first step, and the feeling follows. There's a pattern I've seen again and again. People who take action, even small, imperfect action, start building momentum. And momentum is magnetic. It changes how you think, how you walk, how you speak. It rewires your brain from, can I do this? To, I'm already doing this. You don't need to fake confidence. You don't need to pretend to have it all together. All you need is to be brave enough to start, to stand up when your voice trembles, to speak when your heart races, to take that first uncomfortable step. Because every time you do, your comfort zone expands. One day, the things that used to terrify you become normal. What was once impossible becomes your new standard. And that's the power of courage. It changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates and start seeing yourself as someone who acts. Courage is not a gift given to a lucky few. It's a decision anyone can make. And here's the truth. It's contagious. The moment you show courage, people around you see what's possible. Your bravery becomes a mirror for their potential. So if you're waiting to feel confident before you chase that dream, stop waiting. Don't chase confidence. Chase courage. Take the step you're scared to take. Make the call. Write the first line. Launch the idea. Speak the truth. Do it trembling if you have to, but do it. Because the second you move, everything changes. Confidence is built in motion, not in thought. It's built in the small victories, the little risks, the quiet moments where you choose growth over comfort. And over time, you start to realize that fear never truly goes away. It just loses its control over you. Courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you feel it and you lead anyway. It means you understand that the only way out of fear is through it. And when you do that, when you keep stepping forward, despite the shaking hands and racing heart, confidence becomes inevitable. So stop waiting to be confident enough to start. Start, and the confidence will come. Because confidence doesn't create courage. Courage creates confidence. We live in a world obsessed with instant results. Everyone wants the overnight transformation, the viral moment, the big win that proves they've made it. But the truth is, life doesn't reward you for what you intend to do. It rewards you for what you consistently do, even when no one's watching. The real breakthroughs don't come from massive leaps. They come from small, intentional steps taken again and again until they turn into unstoppable momentum. I want you to think about something. A mountain isn't climbed in a single stride. It's conquered step by step, one foothold at a time. And yet so many people quit before they even start because they're intimidated by how far they have to go. They look at the top and say, it's too high, it's too much. But here's the truth. No one reaches the summit by staring at it. They reach it by focusing on the next step right in front of them. That's what progress looks like. It's not dramatic. It's not flashy. It's the quiet commitment to keep moving forward, even when the results aren't showing yet. Because every small step, every tiny action compounds over time into something extraordinary. We've been conditioned to celebrate big wins, but what truly shapes you are the small victories no one claps for. The mornings you get up early when you don't feel like it. The days you choose discipline over distraction. The moments you give your best, even when no one's there to notice. Those little decisions, those invisible efforts, that's what builds the foundation for greatness. I've seen people destroy their dreams because they underestimate the power of small beginnings. They think, what difference will one workout make? One page written, one call made. They forget that success is not built in a single day. It's built daily. It's a collection of small wins stacked over time. You don't need to change your life in a day. You just need to make today count. Because when you string enough of those days together, something incredible happens: momentum. Momentum is what takes those small, almost unnoticeable efforts and turns them into unstoppable progress. It's what transforms discipline into habit, habit into character, and character into destiny. And the beautiful thing about momentum is that it doesn't care how small you start. It only cares that you start. You can start with 5 minutes, one page, one call, one conversation, and that's enough to shift your energy. Because once you're in motion, staying in motion becomes easier. The hardest part is getting yourself to move that first inch. People often say, I'll start big when I have more time, more energy, more motivation. But that's not how it works. You don't wait for motivation. You build it through action. The energy you're waiting for comes from doing, not from thinking about doing. You want motivation. Do something. Take one small step and feel that spark of progress light up inside you. Here's something to remember. Small steps don't mean small thinking. Starting small doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means being wise enough to start where you are with what you have and trusting that growth will come from movement. You can't skip the process. You can't fast forward through the grind. Every giant you admire today once took a tiny step into the unknown. Think about a baby learning to walk. They don't stand up one day and start running marathons. They fall, wobble, take a few uncertain steps, and fall again. But here's what they don't do. They don't stop trying because they fell. They don't say, maybe walking isn't for me. They just keep getting back up again and again until what was once impossible becomes second nature. That's how growth works. It's messy, it's slow, it's uncomfortable, but it's also beautiful because every stumble, every setback, every inch forward is teaching you something. You're not just building results, you're building resilience. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't give up just because it's hard. And that identity shift from someone who waits for perfect conditions to someone who takes daily action, that's where power lies. Because once you learn to master the art of small, consistent steps, nothing can stop you. You no longer depend on luck or timing. You depend on your own consistency. The secret is not in doing everything at once. The secret is in doing the right things again and again. It's brushing your craft daily, improving 1% at a time, showing up even when it's boring, and trusting that all those small moves are adding up behind the scenes. You may not see the change immediately, but it's happening. And one day, people will look at you and call you lucky, but you'll know it wasn't luck. It was consistency. Every step counts. Every effort matters. Every moment you choose progress over perfection, you're rewriting your future. The small things you do when no one's looking, that's what builds greatness when everyone's watching. So stop underestimating the power of small. Stop waiting for the big break or the right time. Every massive oak tree started as a seed. Every empire began with a single decision. Every life transformation started with one small, brave step. Because greatness doesn't happen all at once. It happens one small step at a time. And the only step that truly matters is the one you take today. You know, one of the greatest prisons most people live in isn't made of walls or bars. It's made of opinions. The fear of what other people might think is one of the most powerful forms of self-sabotage there is. And the truth is, it doesn't matter how talented, driven, or intelligent you are. If you keep handing your power to other people's approval, you'll never truly live free. From a young age, we're conditioned to seek validation. We learn to color inside the lines, dress the way others expect, act in ways that earn applause. Somewhere along the way, we start believing that being accepted is more important than being authentic. And that's where the slow death of dreams begins. Because every time you shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort zone, you disconnect from who you really are. I've seen people abandon their goals, their passions, even their purpose, not because they didn't have the ability, but because they were afraid of being judged. They were afraid to look foolish, afraid to fail in public, afraid that someone might whisper, who does he think he is? So they play it safe, blend in, stay quiet, stay comfortable. But safety isn't living, it's surviving. Let me tell you something, judgment is unavoidable. No matter what you do, someone's gonna have an opinion about it. If you speak up, you'll be criticized. If you stay silent, you'll be misunderstood. If you succeed, you'll be envied. If you fail, you'll be mocked. So you might as well do what sets your soul on fire. Because whether you rise or fall, people will always talk. And their voices only have power if you listen. Here's the reality. Most people who judge you aren't really thinking about you at all. They're projecting their own fears, their own insecurities, their own limitations. When someone tells you that's impossible, what they're really saying is, it's impossible for me. Don't let someone else's ceiling become your limit. The moment you stop needing everyone to understand you is the moment you become unstoppable. Because truthfully, the ones who laugh at you now will often be the same ones who ask for advice later. But to get there, you have to be willing to be misunderstood for a while. You have to walk through the noise without losing your focus. Every visionary, every leader, every creator who's ever made history had to face that same wall of judgment. They were doubted, mocked, criticized, and yet they moved anyway. They understood something powerful, that the world doesn't reward people who play small. It rewards those who dare to be different, who dare to stand out, who dare to follow their calling even when others don't get it. And the truth is, judgment only hurts when there's a part of you that believes it. When you've truly owned who you are, criticism loses its grip. You stop needing everyone to approve of your path because you finally approve of yourself. But here's where it gets real. The fear of judgment isn't really about others. It's about our own uncertainty. When you're not sure who you are, other people's opinions echo louder. But the moment you get clear on your mission, the noise starts to fade. When your purpose burns bright enough, their words can't dim it. So ask yourself, who are you living for? Who are you performing for? Whose approval are you waiting for before you allow yourself to go all in? Because the truth is, the people you're afraid of disappointing are often too busy worrying about their own lives to think about yours. You can't build your future based on the opinions of people who won't be in it. I want you to remember this. The fear of judgment doesn't disappear. It just gets quieter as you grow stronger. The more you take action, the more you prove to yourself that their opinions don't define you. Every time you do something you were afraid of, you take back a piece of your power. You start to realize that the only opinion that truly matters is the one you hold about yourself when you're alone. Stop asking for permission to be who you are. Stop apologizing for your dreams. Stop dimming your light because it makes someone else uncomfortable. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to stand out. You weren't made to live according to someone else's expectations. You were made to create your own. If you fail, so what? You'll learn. You'll grow. You'll adapt. But if you never try, if you keep letting fear dictate your choices, you'll never know who you could have become, and that's a far greater pain than failure could ever bring. One day, you'll realize that most of the people whose opinions you feared never even understood your journey. They weren't meant to. They couldn't see the vision because it wasn't theirs to see. And when that moment comes, when you finally look back and see how far you've come despite the doubts and the noise, you'll understand something beautiful. That freedom doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being real. So the next time that fear creeps in, the fear of being judged, rejected, or misunderstood, remind yourself that you're not here to live their version of your life. You're here to live yours, because the only approval you'll ever truly need is your own. And when you stop fearing their judgment, you start living your truth. You know, we live in a world that glorifies the finish line. Everywhere you look, people are celebrating results, the transformation, the success, the achievement, but nobody talks about the journey that built it. We see the highlight reels, not the hours of struggle behind the scenes. And that's why so many people get discouraged when they start, because progress doesn't always look like success at first. It's quiet, it's messy, it's slow, but it's real. The truth is, greatness is built in progress, not perfection. It's not about how fast you arrive, it's about how consistently you move. Every small improvement, every lesson learned, every tiny adjustment you make, that's the evidence that you're growing. Progress is the real proof that you're alive, that you're becoming someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who doesn't give up when things get tough. So many people quit because they can't see immediate results. They start something with fire, with passion, and when they don't see massive change right away, they assume they're failing. But that's not failure, that's the process. That's how growth feels in the middle. Think about a seed buried in the soil. For a while, it's dark, it's quiet. It looks like nothing's happening. But underneath, the roots are forming. It's preparing to break through. That's what your progress looks like before the breakthrough. You might not see it yet, but something's building beneath the surface. Every time you show up, every time you push through resistance, every time you do what you said you do, you're creating the foundation for the life you want. It's just that progress rarely looks impressive while it's happening. It looks ordinary, it looks repetitive. But one day you'll look back and realize those small, unremarkable days were the most important ones. And here's what's powerful, progress compounds. One day of effort may not change your life, but 100 days of small effort absolutely will. One small improvement today leads to another tomorrow, and over time, those little steps add up to something massive. The problem is we often underestimate what we can build over time because we're so focused on what we can't see right now. If you can learn to fall in love with progress, not just outcomes, you'll never lose momentum because results come and go, but growth is permanent. Every failure, every setback, every small victory teaches you something about who you are. You start to realize that it's not the goal that changes you, it's the journey you take to reach it. I've met people who hit their goals and still feel empty because they were chasing the result instead of the process. They were so focused on getting there that they forgot to appreciate who they were becoming along the way. The real transformation isn't what you achieve, it's who you have to become to achieve it. That's what makes it meaningful. And you know what? Sometimes progress doesn't look like moving forward. Sometimes it looks like slowing down, reflecting, adjusting. It looks like rest, recalibration, even stepping back to see things differently. That's still progress, because progress isn't always about speed. It's about direction. It's about moving with intention, not just motion. We've been told that success is this straight line upward, but it's not. It's a series of climbs and dips, of wins and losses, of moments where you feel unstoppable and moments where you question everything. But every one of those moments matters, because even when you're struggling, you're growing. Even when you're unsure, you're evolving. Progress doesn't care if it's smooth or messy. It only cares that you keep going. There's something incredibly freeing about shifting your focus from perfection to progress, because perfection is unattainable. It paralyzes you. It makes you think, if I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. But progress invites you to move. It tells you, just start, just do something. And that's where real growth begins. You don't need to make giant leaps to change your life. You just need to be better than you were yesterday, even slightly, because that 1% better every day doesn't just add up. It multiplies, it becomes identity, it becomes momentum. And momentum is what creates transformation. Every step you take, no matter how small, is proof that you're becoming someone who follows through. Someone who doesn't just dream, but acts. Someone who doesn't give up when it's hard, but digs in deeper. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be persistent. Think about it. When you first started walking as a child, you fell over and over again, but you didn't stop. You didn't call yourself a failure. You didn't say, this isn't working. You got back up and kept going. That's progress. Somewhere along the way, we forget that. We grow up and we start demanding perfection from ourselves, forgetting that every great thing we've ever learned came through failure, repetition, and time. So the next time you feel like you're not moving fast enough, stop and ask yourself, am I further than I was yesterday? Have I learned something new? Have I shown up again today? If the answer is yes, then you're winning, because success isn't built in a moment. It's built in the accumulation of 1,000 moments where you refuse to give up. You don't have to be perfect to be proud of yourself. You just have to keep moving, keep building, keep growing, because as long as you're in motion, you're still in the game. Progress isn't the path to greatness. Progress is greatness. Every single person who ever did something extraordinary had a day one. That moment where they didn't have a plan, didn't have all the answers, didn't even have certainty, but they had a spark. They had that quiet voice that said, it's time, and they listened to it. That's the difference between the people who dream and the people who build. They don't wait for confidence. They don't wait for guarantees. They just begin. They begin boldly. The truth is, beginnings are uncomfortable. They're uncertain, awkward, and messy. You're stepping into something you've never done before, and that can be terrifying. Your mind screams 1,000 reasons to wait. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not ready? But here's the thing. You'll never know the answers until you start. Life doesn't hand you certainty. It hands you opportunity. And what you do with it determines everything. There's a moment in every journey where you just have to decide. You have to stop overthinking, stop planning, stop waiting for the right sign, and just begin. Because every great story starts with a single decision: I'm going to do this. That decision might not feel powerful in the moment, but it changes everything. It's the moment when you stop living in potential and start living in purpose. I've met so many people who have incredible ideas, dreams so big they light up when they talk about them, but they never take the first step because they're afraid. They want certainty before they move, results before they act. But it doesn't work that way. You can't steer a parked car. You have to get moving first. You have to give life something to respond to. When you begin, something shifts inside of you. You activate momentum. You start telling yourself, I'm the kind of person who takes action. I don't wait for permission. I make things happen. That single shift in identity changes everything, because most people are waiting for the perfect conditions. But the perfect conditions don't exist. The people who make it happen are the ones who start anyway. Think about every great invention, every great company, every great movement. They all began with one person deciding to take a step, even when they had no idea what would happen next. They didn't have a perfect plan. They had a powerful decision, the decision to begin boldly. And beginning boldly doesn't mean beginning without fear. It means beginning despite it. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means you've decided that something else matters more. When you decide to start, fear doesn't disappear. It just loses control over you, because you've shifted your energy from hesitation to movement, from thinking to doing. Every time you take that first step, no matter how small, you send a message to your brain, to your body, to the universe, I'm ready. And that signal opens doors you couldn't see before. People show up, opportunities appear, ideas flow, but none of that happens until you start. Here's what I've learned: life rewards the bold, not the perfect, not the cautious, not the ones who wait to be sure. The bold, the ones who are willing to risk, to fall, to look foolish for a while, because they know that action builds clarity and clarity builds confidence. Every bold beginning leads to growth, and that growth eventually leads to greatness. There's a kind of magic in beginnings. You don't see it at first, but it's there. It's in the energy of a fresh start. In that first step you take, even though you're unsure, that's where your power lies. Because the moment you begin, you're no longer who you were. You've crossed a line. You've moved from thinking to doing, from dreaming to creating, from wishing to becoming. And yes, it's scary. Every new chapter is. But if you can learn to lean into that fear, if you can see it as a sign that you're on the edge of something meaningful, then fear becomes fuel. It becomes a reminder that you're growing, that you're alive, that you're playing a bigger game. You don't need to know everything. You just need to trust yourself enough to take the next step. The path reveals itself as you walk it. Every action brings new clarity. Every failure brings new wisdom. Every success brings new strength. But none of it happens if you don't begin. So stop waiting for the perfect time. It's not coming. Stop waiting for permission. You already have it. Stop waiting for certainty. It's earned through experience, not before it. You have everything you need to take that first step right now. You have the strength, the vision, and the spark. And maybe that's what life is really asking from you, not perfection, not guarantees, not a flawless plan, but simply the courage to begin, to take one bold, imperfect, unapologetic step in the direction of the life you were meant to live. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that everything changed the moment you decided to start. That was the turning point. That was the moment you stopped waiting and started becoming. So don't wait for the right moment. Make this moment right by beginning now.